Dorian slamming the North Carolina coast, nearly a foot of rain combining with a massive storm surge.
Winds gusting to 77 miles per hour now.
As the Dorian disaster deepens in the Bahamas, the death toll rising. Airports and docks overrun with people trying to get out.
It's chaos here.
The latest on this humanitarian crisis.
Breaking overnight, scares at 2 high school football games, a shooting at this game in Pittsburgh, and in Alabama, players hitting the ground over fears of gunfire. We're covering both developing stories this morning.
There's something going on.
Urgent warning. Health officials discouraging people from vaping as they investigate new deaths potentially linked to it. At least 5 people have now died, hundreds more developing a mysterious lung illness. How health experts are trying to track down the cause.
Celebrities plead. Desperate Housewives star Felicity Huffman asking for no prison time in the Varsity Blues case. What prosecutors are saying this morning, and how husband William H. Macy says this has affected their family.
And going for history, Serena Williams looking for a record-tying 24th Grand Slam title, the opponent who stands in her way. Can the tennis champ put the past behind her? With the help of a royal supporter in the stands.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Should be a good one. Good morning. Dan is off, but we are so happy to have Mary Bruce filling in with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, guys. It is so great to be here with you.
Good to have you making the trip from D.C. It's good to have you here. We do start, though, with a busy morning. Hurricane Dorian whipping up waves in the Northeast. This is what it looks like this morning off the coast of Cape Cod with winds and rough surf.
Further south, Dorian leaving a path of destruction across the Outer Banks. Ocracoke Island, hardest hit with massive flooding and power outages. Some saying they've never seen it this bad.
And the misery is mounting in the Bahamas. The situation there desperate. Rescue crews searching for survivors in the piles of debris. And now a new concern, oil leaking from a storage terminal on Grand Bahama Island. The Bahamas press is calling it a potential environmental disaster.
ABC's Marcus Moore has been in the Bahamas all week. We'll check in with him in just a moment. But first, let's start with Rob on the North Carolina coast, still covering this destructive storm. Rob, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. When you consider what happened in the Bahamas, the U.S. as a whole got pretty lucky. But don't tell that too loudly to the folks around here, because the Carolinas got hit hard. Look at what the force of the wind did to these utility poles behind me. Still tens of thousands of people without power. The eye of Hurricane Dorian making landfall just 30 miles to my south.
This morning, the Carolinas reeling after the wrath of Hurricane Dorian. Residents on Ocracoke Island assessing the damage after near-record storm surge swamped neighborhoods.
We didn't know it was going to be this bad.
Homes and backyards flooded, cars left submerged, this whole street underwater. Hyde County choppers flying onto the island to help the estimated 800 people who did not evacuate. Dorian's winds recorded up to 110 miles per hour, ripping across the coast, pushing water inland. ABC's Stephanie Ramos was there.
Here is getting pounded right now. You can see the waves crashing, pushing into that shoreline.
The hurricane making landfall with full force, bringing over a foot of rain and damaging winds.
Winds gusting to 77 miles per hour now. Coming off the sound, we got sound, surge, flooding, debris and water covering in this road. We're still 4 hours from high tide.
Storm surge inundating Virginia, too. Water rushing into Norfolk, flooding downtown. Utility crews racing to restore power across the region, with tens of thousands still in the dark. This after up to 20 reported tornadoes tore through North Carolina ahead of Dorian. Residents of Emerald Isle still trying to salvage what they can.
So they pretty much had 3 days worth of Dorian here in North Carolina, and the way this state is shaped, you get it on both sides. So you get the Atlantic surge flooding and you get the Sound surge flooding as well. Much calmer today, but this is going to go down as number 6 in the record books here as far as the lowest pressure of a hurricane hitting North Carolina out of all the hurricanes that have hit this state. So a pretty remarkable storm for sure. But we are rid of it for now. It is heading off towards the north and east, but the northeast coast of the U.S. is getting impacted pretty heavily this morning. I want to show you where it is. About 130 miles to the southeast of Nantucket. Still a Category 1 storm, moving northeasterly at 25 miles an hour. So it's still accelerating. And here's what we expect as far as the track is concerned. We've seen wind gusts to 63 miles an hour in Provincetown, over 70 miles an hour off Nantucket. And looks like Nova Scotia is going to be the next to get hit later on this afternoon and tonight. They do happen. Hurricanes do hit the Maritimes, but it is pretty rare. And Dorian has been surprising us for a while now. We'll talk more in a few minutes. Guys, back up to you.
All right, thanks, Rob. I'm sure the people in the Carolinas are happy to see it go. And we continue our team coverage in the Bahamas, where the devastation is just massive. The United Nations estimating that at least 70,000 people are homeless in Abaco and Grand Bahamas. ABC's Marcus Moore is in Nassau with the very latest. Good morning to you, Marcus.
Eva, good morning. This morning, this critical search and rescue operations are ramping up once again as thousands of storm survivors are lining up at battered airport terminals and boat docks, hoping to get off of those battered islands and here to Nassau. This morning, hell on earth in parts of the Bahamas as survivors desperately await humanitarian aid. The death toll rising overnight, now at 43. Thousands possibly missing, and the deceased still under piles of rubble.
For the first time in my life, I saw a dead body in front of my eyes. So seeing that really switched my whole mood of there is no civilization no more.
Bahamian officials warning, prepare for a death toll that could be, quote, unimaginable and staggering. The U.S. responding to the devastation, deploying a fleet of emergency responders to the island. The federal government now part of an international coalition with the UK, Canada, and Caribbean partners working with private organizations to bring supplies and relief to those ravaged by the catastrophic damage. We were with Customs and Border Protection and search and rescue teams.
This is very much an operation that has been ramping up in the last couple of days, and it will be going on for quite some time.
First, landing at Marsh Harbor's airport.
This is my first time back to the airport since we got here last Friday before the storm hit.
The airport a scene of despair as families wait to leave the island.
It's getting worse. We have to get out. Nothing is usable. No food store is usable. No hardwares. Nothing.
The docks in Abaco overflowing. Hundreds standing by hoping for the next evacuation.
It's chaos here and the place is uninhabitable. Nobody can live here.
Cruise ships repurposed as ferries to transport many to Nassau, while the injured are forced to bide their time in overcrowded hospitals. So many now starting to deal with the trauma of surviving a nightmare.
And Marcus, there has been a big effort to get those airports back open. You met, as we saw, a lot of people at the airport in Marsh Harbor. What are they telling you about what they're planning to do next?
Well, Eva, first, there were people who had been at that airport terminal in Marsh Harbor for several days, for 3 days, no food, no water, no power. And some of them will come here to Nassau to meet up with families, but others told me they have no plan at all. They just want to get off of that island. And one woman told me that the beauty in Marsh Harbor is gone, but the heart of the people is very much still there. Eva.
All right, Marcus Moore for us in the Bahamas this morning. Thank you, Marcus.
Now to breaking news overnight. A shooting at a high school football game injures at least one person, while a scare at another game had players hitting the dirt. ABC's Zachary Keish joins us with more. Zachary, good morning.
Good morning to you as well. There were scares at high school football games in 2 states overnight, causing chaos in the stands and on the field. Now, according to witnesses, the apparent sound of gunfire sent people running to safety. Overnight, a shooting at a high school football game outside of Pittsburgh, leaving one person shot and the stadium evacuated. The gunshots broke out near the stadium's main gate, and according to witnesses, the victim suffered severe injuries.
PA announcers again tried to calm everybody down, but the damage had already been done at that point. So, people were running as fast as they possibly can to get away from the trouble.
Also overnight, a scare in Alabama. The announcer's commentary at this game interrupted by what sounded like gunshots. One coach ordering his players to take cover by laying on the ground.
We get some shots fired in the wood line up here at the Center Wood game. Let me get some units.
After a search, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office coming up empty, calling it a false report. And just last week, a terrifying situation in Mobile. 10 people were shot following a high school football game there. The victims, all teenagers, survived, but police did arrest a 17-year-old. Pretty crazy scene out there. As for the shooting outside of Pittsburgh, school officials say no students were involved. The suspect was arrested and the incident is under investigation.
Guys? See how on edge people are.
Oh, absolutely.
Zachary, thank you. Now to the latest on the growing number of mysterious deaths and hospitalizations linked to vaping. Health officials now say at least 5 people have died from vaping-related illnesses, and the CDC is issuing a serious warning.
Have to vape, don't do it right now.
It's an urgent warning from health officials across the country. The CDC now advising Americans to stop vaping or using e-cigarettes while they investigate. Officials confirming they're now examining a major outbreak of more than 450 people in 33 states with mysterious lung illnesses. The number of vaping-related deaths rising to at least 5.
Vaping is the only common factor in these injuries to date.
In California, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health says it's studying the country's first known death tied to vaping.
We join with the Centers for Disease Control to advise people to stop vaping now.
Also acknowledging there are 12 other known cases of pulmonary illnesses related to vaping in the county. The government says that while many of the patients, but not all, reported recent use of THC-containing products, some reported using both THC and nicotine. They're also investigating whether the illnesses may be related to specific devices, other ingredients, possible contaminants, or more than one of the above.
Nobody's for sure what's in these products or what they're putting into their bodies or how it might affect their health.
This morning, 24-year-old J.D. Hernandez is hooked up to a breathing machine, fighting for his life. His doctors tell his family that his troubles started when he began vaping 6 months ago.
It's very hurtful to see your child in so much pain and not be able to help them.
That in just 6 months. Now, the American Vaping Association is now releasing a statement responding to the new warning, saying the CDC is playing politics with people's health by not issuing clear and specific warnings about avoiding vaping illegal marijuana oil products. Every day it is becoming more clear that these illnesses and deaths are being caused by THC-containing street vapes, not store-bought nicotine vaping products. We should point out that contradicts what a lot of the health officials are saying. So let's bring in ABC's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Jen Ashton. It's so good to have you here on this important and alarming story. Let's talk about the 5 reported deaths first. What do we know in terms of similarities and what don't we know?
Well, that's the key. There's still a lot of questions here, but let's go through the numbers. Right now, there are 5 attributable deaths. 2 appear to have involved THC in the past. 1 occurred in someone with underlying lung disease. Another one occurred in someone with other chronic medical conditions. And when you talk about numbers, you have to consider numerator and denominator. Millions and millions of people are using e-cigs or vaping. Right now, there are 450 possible illness-associated cases. So again, still very uncommon, but no doubt concerning.
And we're seeing a spike recently, too. But the challenge here is the variety of products that we're seeing. Some patients are using products off the street. Some are using brand name, some with THC, some with nicotine. How do health officials even begin to move forward to investigate?
So let me take you through the medical detective work with. First, you have to distinguish between association and cause and effect. We're trying to put those dots together right now. And then you have to go through the who, what, where, when, why, and how. We have to see what the lung washings from those patients look like. Right now, federal, state, local health officials' radars are up. The CDC and the FDA are continuing to investigate.
A lot of work to be done.
Yep.
Dr. Ashton, thank you as always.
Well, new this morning, new developments in the case of 2 American teens arrested in the stabbing death of an Italian police officer. The prosecutor releasing 2,000 pages of investigative documents to the teens' lawyers, some of which have now been leaked to the Italian media. It's a treasure trove of new information. ABC's Julia McFarland is in London with the latest. Good morning, Julia.
Good morning, Eva. That's right. Italian media reporting a new twist in the case of 2 American teens being held in connection with the killing of an Italian police officer this summer. 19-year-old Finnegan Elder and 18-year-old Gabriel Natal, both from the San Francisco Bay Area, are being held in prison in Rome. Elder is accused of stabbing an unarmed Italian police officer with a 7-inch blade after he and his partner were responding to a reported drug deal gone bad. The officer, just back from his honeymoon, died from his Elda's wounds. But now leaked prosecution documents are reportedly carrying a new twist in the story, suggesting that contrary to earlier claims, neither police officer on the scene was carrying a gun, handcuffs, or any police identification and were wearing Bermuda shorts and T-shirts. The Italian Carabinieri last month claimed the surviving officer did not discharge his weapon because the teens were running away and he was tending to his wounded colleague. Eva?
Now, Julia, this is a pretty significant development in this case, right?
Exactly. This apparent twist may lend credibility to Finnegan Elder's claims that he didn't know he was being apprehended by police. Meanwhile, Elder's mother, Leah, has told ABC News that her son is, quote, painfully depressed and that it has been difficult to hear the facts so unfairly represented. Meanwhile, Elder's attorney also telling ABC News this twist calls into question the credibility of the case's main witness. Mary?
Thank you so much. Now to the presidential race. The Democratic candidates this morning are out on the campaign trail in a key primary state, preparing to square off with the next debate now just 5 days away. ABC's Rachel Scott has more from New Hampshire.
Democratic field hitting the pavement in the Granite State, hoping to gain momentum heading into the next debate. Behind the scenes, though, the candidates crafting their strategy.
We're putting in a lot of hard work, putting in many hours, working with my debate prep team.
Early frontrunner Joe Biden appeared confident as he left his campaign stop in Laconia.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
But right next to him on that upcoming debate stage, and right behind him in the polls, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who together have proposals on health care radically different from the former vice president.
Mr. Vice President,
I asked Biden how his message will break through.
I've never had to break through. See, that's not hard breaking through. The question is doing well. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
At his second stop, the former VP taking heat for a fundraiser he attended hosted by the co-founder of a natural gas company.
He did found a fossil, but he's not on the board or any of it. He does not run it at all.
Meanwhile, Senator Kamala Harris, who took on Biden in that first debate, brushing off recent polls that show him with an advantage nationwide.
The bottom line is it's important to stay steady and keep your eye on the prize, which is the only poll that matters, and that's Election Day.
But before the candidates meet on stage, they'll cross paths in New Hampshire this weekend for the party state convention. The first in the nation primary still months out. Undecided voters like Eric Ratenoff listening in, but holding off on committing to one candidate.
I want to really kind of keep an open mind. I think it's sort of the nature of the New Hampshire primary voter.
And the Democrats aren't the only ones looking to gain traction here. President Trump lost this state by a thin margin in the 2016 election, but his re-election campaign believes it's in play for 2020. The last time a Republican won this state, though, in a presidential election was almost 20 years ago. Mary?
Rachel, thank you. Now, a reminder, you can see the next Democratic debate this coming Thursday, September 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on ABC.
It's time now for another check of weather. Let's go back out to Rob, who is in the Outer Banks. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Eve. It's so nice to have completely calm winds here in North Carolina, but that's not the case across New England as Dorian is raking the coastlines there. Let's show you some of the numbers as far as what we are seeing as far as wind gusts are concerned. New York, you're getting 18-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Boston, 29, 27 currently right now, but we've had gusts over 60 and 70 on the Cape there, and we'll continue to see this spin and rapidly move off towards Nova Scotia, and those wind gusts will diminish as a result of that. But this morning, it's going to be breezy at the least across some of the shorelines of eastern New England, and rough surf for sure. Some of the beaches are closed there because of it. And we have something else out there in the Atlantic Ocean. We're watching very carefully, including Gabrielle. That's the latest of what's happening tropically. Time now for a look at your local forecast.
Hello and good morning, Washington. What a beautiful weekend in the wake of Hurricane Dorian. Today, temperatures into the mid-80s, low humidity, a lot of sunshine, a few added clouds on your Sunday. Temperatures still into the mid-80s. Now, as we go ahead early next week, there are a chance for a couple of showers on your Monday to start the work week. See those shower chances, I think mainly in the afternoon hours. 83 degrees on your Tuesday, back near 90 degrees on Wednesday. The latest on Hurricane Dorian finally becoming post-tropical as we get into early Sunday morning.
Add this to the list of just one more reason I love Mary Bruce. She volunteered to come to New York to be that much closer, just a little bit closer to the hurricane. Whit, you would never do that.
What can I say?
Yes.
I had to do it.
She's a team player. And by the way, Rob, thank you so much. We know you've been putting in hard, long hours out there for a couple of weeks. We miss you. And apparently there's a shortage of razors and shaving cream there in the Carolinas as well. But you look great. The rugged look works. Oh, no. We love you, Rob. We'll see you later on in the show.
Yeah. Team kisses hello. See you guys.
All right, sounds good. We do have other stories to get to here. The Pentagon reporting that 3 top leaders of the elite Navy SEAL team